अफसोसनाक खबर आपको देंगे। क्रिकेट की दुनिया से इंतहाई अफसोसनाक खबर। साबिक ऑस्ट्रेलियाई लेग स्पिनर शेन वॉर्न इंतकाल कर गए। उनका इंतकाल हार्ट अटैक के बायस हुआ। वो उस वक्त थाईलैंड में थे जब ये सब कुछ पेश आया। साबिक ऑस्ट्रेलियाई लेग स्पिनर शेन वॉर्न इंतकाल कर गए। उनका इंतकाल हार्ट अटैक के बायस हुआ। और ये भी आपको बता दें कि वो थाईलैंड में थे, वहीं से ये खबर आ रही है। साबिक ऑस्ट्रेलियाई लेग स्पिनर, दुनिया शेन वॉर्न को जानती थी। जब वो पिच पर होते थे तो बैट्समैन दहल जाता था, डर जाता था, विकेट बचाता था। और अब शेन वॉर्न के बारे में ये खबर आई कि उनका इंतकाल हो गया। 52 बरस की उम्र में उनका इंतकाल हो गया। साबिक ऑस्ट्रेलियाई लेग स्पिनर शेन वॉर्न का इंतकाल हो गया। हार्ट अटैक, ये वजह बताई जा रही है उनकी मौत की, उनके इंतकाल की। शेन वॉर्न का इंतकाल 52 बरस की उम्र में हुआ। ये साबिक ऑस्ट्रेलियाई लेग स्पिनर शेन वॉर्न की हम बात कर रहे हैं। दुनिया ने उनको फॉलो किया।
Cricket is in mourning today. Australian cricket legend Shane Warne has died at the age of 52 after suffering a suspected heart attack. Warne is regarded as one of the greatest bowlers in cricket history. He amassed 708 wickets in his 15-year Test career, with Sri Lankan great Muthai Muralitharan the only man to pick up more wickets. Joining us now for reaction is former Chief Executive Officer of the International Cricket Council, Dave Richardson. A very good afternoon to you, Dave, and thank you so much for joining us. How big of a loss to the game of cricket is this?
Well, a huge tragedy, really, a huge shock, I suppose, to the whole cricket world. I sort of played at the time when Shane Warne was probably at his peak, and as a player, as you've mentioned, one of the best, if not the best spinner that's lived, and also privileged to have served on a committee or two with him after his cricket career, and obviously had quite a lot to do with him when he was a commentator. So someone who knew the game very well, a larger-than-life character, a dinkum Aussie, I suppose, is what the Aussies would refer to him as. Someone who played the game hard on the field, but was a pleasure to be around off the field. And I'm certain he'll be missed by fans around the world, not only in Australia. And a huge loss to the game, because he was someone who knew the game so well, and his commentary was, I thought, always excellent, and gone far too soon.
What legacy does he leave, Dave?
Well, I think, if you look back now, prior to him and Muralitharan being so successful in world cricket, and in particular Shane Warne, I thought he did tremendous amount to develop leg spin or wrist spin bowling in the world, all over the world. And, the success he had with Australia, when he never played, although Australia had a great team at that time, it was noticeable that they weren't as good a team as when he was in the team. So that was his impact. And, I think that so many people, whether they are Australians, wherever they lived, youngsters would have taken up the game or taken up the art of wrist spin, motivated by watching Shane Warne perform his magic on the field.
Look, he was a terror for every Test-playing nation in the world, but he was a big terror for his rival, South Africa. The Proteas just never knew how to deal with Shane Warne. I mean, speak to us about that rivalry between South Africa and Australia, particularly in that Shane Warne era.
Well, as I say, I think on the odd occasion that we managed to beat Australia, it was often when he was injured or wasn't playing for some or other reason. But when he was in the team, in particular when he was playing in Australian conditions, and in particular in the Sydney cricket ground, he was at times unplayable. Mesmerizing with his accuracy, never gave you anything. And I think he developed around about that time, the ball which came onto you, it looked like a short leg spinner, and you went back to cut it, and the next minute it shot through and would have you trapped LBW or bowled. He was something special and something you never came across. You'd come across other wrist spinners before that, and you'd have a tactic of being able to just wait for the short ball and wait to go on the cut. But with him, you couldn't do that. And he never gave you anything. Very accurate for someone. Wrist spinning is a very difficult art, and he had mastered it, and he was so accurate, and therefore he had such great success.
Just before we let you go, Dave, we may never see a bowler amassing 800 wickets like Mutai Muralitharan, 700 wickets like Shane Warne, 600 wickets like a James Anderson. But do you think we'll ever see someone with the kind of flair with the ball as Shane Warne had?
I don't think so, because in a way his character was bigger than just his bowling, his exploits on the field. He was a larger-than-life type of character. He enjoyed his cricket so much, and that came across not only while he was playing, but also, he'd be the first in your dressing room after the match to have a beer with the opposition. And when he was a commentator, he loved his job, and you could hear it in his voice when he was commentating. And as I said, very knowledgeable as well. Very insightful commentary. So it's such a pity. I'm sure it's a huge shock to all his close friends, teammates, family, but a shock around the world, I'm sure.
It certainly is. Dave, thank you so much for joining us and just paying your tribute to a legend of the game. That is former Chief Executive of the ICC, Dave Richardson, of course. Rest in peace, Shane Warne, and condolences to his family, his friends, Australian cricket and the cricket fraternity around the world.
अफसोस की खबर है, ऑस्ट्रेलिया के लेजेंड लेग स्पिनर शेन वॉर्न दिल का दौरा पड़ने से चल बसे हैं। शेन वॉर्न की उम्र 52 बरस थी। शेन वॉर्न ने ऑस्ट्रेलिया की जानिब से 145 टेस्ट मैचेस में 708 विकेटें हासिल की। शेन वॉर्न ने 194 वनडे इंटरनेशनल मैचेस में 293 खिलाड़ियों को आउट किया। लेजेंड ऑस्ट्रेलियन लेग स्पिनर शेन वॉर्न से कुछ देर पहले हरकत कल्ब बंद हो जाने से इंतकाल कर गए हैं। जो जराये की जाने से बताया जा रहा है कि अपने विला में अनरिस्पॉन्सिव पाए गए। मेडिकल टीम ने कोशिश की, भरपूर कोशिश की उन्हें रिवाइव करने की, लेकिन उनकी ये कोशिशें कामयाब नहीं हो सकी। 52 साल 172 दिन की उम्र में शेन कीथ वॉर्न इंतकाल कर गए। शेन वॉर्न 13 सितंबर 1969 में विक्टोरिया में पैदा हुए थे और आज उनका इंतकाल हुआ। आज ऑस्ट्रेलियाई क्रिकेट के लिए दो बड़ी खबरें थी, रॉडनी मार्श का इंतकाल और उसके बाद अब शेन वॉर्न इंतकाल कर गए हैं। शेन वॉर्न ने अपना आखिरी जो ट्वीट किया था वो रॉड मार्श के ताज़ियती हवाले से किया था। उनका कहना था कि उन्हें ये खबर सुनकर इंतहाई दुख और अफसोस हुआ है और अब हमारे साथ शेन वॉर्न भी नहीं रहे। आज जब पाकिस्तान और ऑस्ट्रेलिया 24 साल बाद एक दूसरे के बदले मुकाबिल आए हैं तो बहुत सारे लोगों ने दौरान मैच मिस किया कि वो कमेंट्री नहीं सुन पा रहे शेन वॉर्न की, और शेन वॉर्न इस पर दिलचस्प गुफ्तगू करते। लेकिन अब ये पता चला है कि शेन वॉर्न इंतकाल कर गए हैं 52 बरस की उम्र में। शेन वॉर्न ने 1992 से लेकर 2007 तक ऑस्ट्रेलिया की नुमाइंदगी की। बताया जा रहा है कि ऑस्ट्रेलिया की जानिब से 145 टेस्ट मैचेस के लिए 708 विकेटें हासिल की। 194 वनडे इंटरनेशनल मैचेस में 293 खिलाड़ियों को उन्होंने आउट किया। इसके अलावा हम आपको ये भी बताते चलें कि T20 मैचेस उन्होंने खेले 71 इनिंग्स उन्होंने खेली और साथ ही उन्होंने 70 विकेटें T20 फॉर्मेट में हासिल की। बहुत बड़ा नाम है, लेग स्पिन बॉलिंग का जादूगर कहा जाता था शेन वॉर्न को अपने जमाने में। और उसके बाद शेन वॉर्न जब किसी बॉलर की हौसला अफजाई करते, उसकी तारीफ करते, तो वो लेग स्पिनर अपने लिए इस बात को एजाज समझता कि शेन वॉर्न ने उन्हें सराहा है। और ये खबर बिल्कुल अचानक मौसूल हुई है। बताया जा रहा है कि वो अपने विला में अनरिस्पॉन्सिव पाए गए और उन्हें मेडिकल टीम ने भरपूर कोशिश की रिवाइव करने की, लेकिन कामयाबी न मिल सकी। इब्तिदाई तौर पर हरकत कल्ब बंद हो जाना, ये कार्डियक अरेस्ट उनकी वजह मौत बताई जा रही है। तबई मौत अब तक सामने आ रही है। आज काफी दुखी थे उन्होंने। यासिर शाह पाकिस्तानी लेग स्पिनर की हवाले से जब उन्होंने तारीफी कलिमात कहे तो यासिर शाह के लिए वो बहुत बड़ा दिन था, यासिर शाह के लिए बहुत बड़ा एजाज था। आज आखिरी ट्वीट जो उन्होंने किया वो रॉड मार्श के इंतकाल पर किया। उनका कहना था कि रॉड मार्श के इंतकाल कर जाने की खबर सुनकर बहुत दुख हुआ। वो एक लेजेंड थे और मेरे लिए एक इंस्पिरेशन थे, नए लड़के बच्चे बच्चियों के लिए। और क्रिकेट के हवाले से रॉड ने बड़ा काम किया, खासतौर पर ऑस्ट्रेलिया के लिए। इंग्लैंड के प्लेयर्स ने उनसे बहुत कुछ सीखा। उनका ये कहना था कि रॉड के लिए वो बहुत सारी दुआएं और प्यार भेज रहे हैं। रेस्ट इन पीस मेट, ये आखिरी अल्फाज हैं शेन वॉर्न के जो उन्होंने रॉडनी मार्श के लिए कहे थे और अब एक दिल का निशान भी बनाया था। अब यही अल्फाज ठीक 12 घंटे बाद शेन वॉर्न के लिए कहे जा सकते हैं, रेस्ट इन पीस मेट। हमारी जानिब से भी दिल का निशान इस लेजेंड क्रिकेटर के लिए। ऑस्ट्रेलिया के लेजेंड स्पिनर शेन वॉर्न दिल का दौरा पड़ने से चल बसे हैं।
Well, let's go back to that sad news we had from the sporting world there of the death of the Australian cricket legend Shane Warne, just 52 years old, of a heart attack in Thailand. We're going to go straight to our sports correspondent, Tom Parmenter. And Tom, such a shock for the sporting world, isn't this? Just 52 years old.
Yeah, a quite stunning announcement, really, about one of the most popular, legendary figures in the game of cricket. 52 years old, and Shane Warne is, by all accounts, the best spinner ever to have played the game, or certainly one of the very best, because this was someone who announced his arrival onto the international scene with Australia in 1993 with one of the most extraordinary deliveries from a spin bowler you will ever see. A ball that pitched and moved so far that the England batsman Mike Gatting just simply stared at what had happened. And that was Shane Warne arriving in Test cricket, in an Ashes Test at Old Trafford in Manchester in 1993. And he went on to have one of the most extraordinary careers, both on and off the cricket field. And when he turned up in Test cricket, he looked very much like he'd just come off a surf beach in Australia. The bleach blonde hair, the dazzling white teeth. But this was someone whose skill as a spin bowler was unparalleled, and someone who, up until just these last few weeks, has been a key part of the game, a very visible face as a commentator, pundit, commentating on great cricket moments, but many of them not surpassing his own achievements within cricket. And it is the second huge loss for Australian cricket in the space of this week, because Rodney Marsh had also died this week. And Shane Warne's last tweet was actually about the fellow Australian cricketing legend. And it is a moment that has stunned cricket. Some just dumbfounded reactions from people that this 52-year-old is now no longer with us, and someone who has contributed so much to the game of cricket. He had quite a colourful life away from cricket as well, has 3 children, and just a stunning announcement, as I say, that has really rocked the world of cricket, and I think more broadly than that as well. Shane Warne is someone that, even if you don't follow cricket, you're probably aware of. He has been in Thailand most recently. That is where he sadly died. He had been posting on social media about a new fitness push that he was having to try and get back to the physique that he had a couple of years ago. But as you say, his management confirming that in a short statement that they have put out today. One of the greatest cricketers of all time, Shane Warne, dying. The message that he put out earlier this week about Rod Marsh, the other Australian legend to have died this week, was that Rod cared deeply about cricket and gave so much, especially to Australia and England players, sending lots of love to his family.